Welcome to Issue 34. I am here with Dr. Valerie Mattimore, the new director of DNA Solutions. Welcome to Issue.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
How has your time been so far at Issue?
Oh, well, I always love coming to Issue. I've been in the forensic field for over 20 years.
Oh,
and I love coming to this conference. I really do think it's the best one.
I would agree. But it's only my second time here.
Right? There's always exciting locations, so that's interesting.
How many times have you been to Issue?
I have been off and on. I don't always get to go, but I think I've been to 10 of them in the last 2 years. Yeah.
That's a good amount.
It is.
So what makes you come back for more every single time to Issue?
I think this meeting is so relevant to forensic DNA analysis, which is how I started out in the industry.
Yes.
You can go to other meetings for other forensic disciplines and learn a lot of stuff and see a lot of crazy stuff, but when it comes to just strictly DNA, this is the meeting to go to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So please tell us a little bit more about your background, how you came to be the new lab director of DNA Solutions, and what that company does.
Well, DNA Solutions is a DNA testing company that started in the 2000s.
Okay.
And it originally started doing animal testing, mostly deer testing, for example, doing like herd pedigree and identification.
Yeah.
That was before my time there. And that contract ran out in around the 2017 timeframe. And at that point, the business went into human DNA testing.
Okay.
They had been kind of dabbling in human DNA testing, but when they lost the deer business, they started to really rely on that.
Yeah.
And based on that, they started to go into human testing for paternity, legal paternity, immigration, things like that. Also informational relatedness testing.
Yes.
And they started dabbling in forensics. And I was recently hired in January of this year to bolster their forensic line of business, because they were getting really busy with the SACI sexual assault kit initiative.
Okay, yes.
We're bidding on RFPs to do that type of testing, and so they wanted to beef up the efficiency.
Yeah.
So I've been working on that, focusing on that really hard in the last 9 months. And we've hired 5 new people over a period of 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And we've had some people come and go. We've had some people newly hired. And so right now, we have as many trainees as we have analysts.
Oh, wow.
So we're in a crazy time right now, but we're excited. We're about to wrap up all of our training, and that'll allow us to basically triple our productivity, so we can do 3 times the amount of work that we used to be able to do.
How big is a company?
That's a relatively small company.
Okay.
We have 27 employees, and we have 3 lines of business. We have our forensic business, which has about 10 people in it. We have our relatedness testing line of business, which has about another 10 to 13 people. It's really administratively heavy on like customer service.
Okay.
And then we have our catch-all line of business, which we call our R&D department. And they're the ones that will do any kind of weird testing. We even do infidelity testing. We let people submit things anonymously, if they want to, just for informational purposes only.
Right.
We'll also test animals, and one of the biggest parts of our R&D business is being able to identify genus and species of microbial organisms, bacteria and fungus, where people will send in things from their clean room, and they really need to know fast, what this microbe is that's ruining their business. So
Yeah.
that's probably our most important line of business that's non-human at the moment.
Yeah.
But the way I got started in forensics is way back in the late 90s. I had graduated from Louisiana State University, go Tigers, with a PhD in microbiology.
Okay.
And I was like, now what am I going to do? So I went back to my hometown And I saw that the local police department there was starting a DNA lab. So I applied for it and I got that job, and it was very lucky because just a couple of months after that, CSI became the coolest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I really lucked into getting into a field that has really grown.
Yeah.
And that's the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me career-wise.
Yeah.
And I did that for 12 years. I implemented that lab and ran that lab for 12 years. And then I went to Iraq to relax.
Okay.
And then after I worked in Iraq for a year, I worked as a consultant. I worked in some DOJ and Department of State projects.
Mm-hmm.
And got to travel extensively. I've worked in 15 countries.
Nice.
And I did that for 12 years. And I have a son who was 7 years old last year. And he looked at me one day and he was like, "Mom, you need to get a real job." So a couple of months after he said that, I saw the open position at DNA Solutions, and I'm like, okay, here's my real job. So I'm ready to do that for 12 years. So I do everything in 12s.
Lucky number?
I guess it is my lucky number. But I expect to be doing this for the next 12 years.
Nice. So under your leadership at DNA Solutions, what are some of the things that or areas that you are focusing on?
Well, I'm focusing on increasing the productivity in forensics and trying to gain efficiencies wherever we can. I'm looking at our processes and trying to reorganize them, trying to make the decision-making clear so that there's no lag time, and trying to decide what we need to do and when we need to do it, that it's all kind of outlined ahead of time. Just basic efficiency. And the other thing we've been focusing on really hard this year is renewing all of our accreditations. So we're accredited through ANAB in ISO 17025 and the FBI QAS.
Mm-hmm.
And we got that renewed in May. Before that, we had the FBI OVP, where they do the on-site visits for the SACI grantees.
Yeah.
We got through that. And so when I hired on, we hadn't had an on-site visit since before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so, there's a difference when people are just kind of looking at you and asking you questions on Zoom,
Right.
versus showing up in your lab. So we were very excited to have that opportunity of having people on site. And we passed with flying colors. And we've got our AABB assessment coming up in December.
Okay.
And we feel like we're in really good shape for that too.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I know you said you want to increase the efficiency of the forensic section. So what DNA technologies do you all offer for forensic?
So as a private lab, we're always trying to get new customers. And so what we need to do is pretty much use every testing kit that's on the market, right? We want to try to be as flexible as we can, so that when people do use us for testing, that we could do the type of testing that they want us to do.
Right.
So we use all the Promega kits, and we use all the life sciences kits. And so that's a real challenge, because that's a lot of validation.
Yeah.
For example, to be competitive, everyone needs to be using probabilistic genotyping software.
Yeah.
So we are currently in the process of being able to use True Allele, Bulletproof Sentry, which is based on the Euro4Mix open source platform, and then also StarMix. And so validations are currently pending for all three of those. So that is a lot. That is a lot to have on your plate.
Absolutely.
But we're doing really well with it. And so that's the biggest challenge. And then we've always got new technologies that we want to feather in, like we're adding to our DNA extraction isolation platform.
Amazing.
And we're happy to see that.
Okay. So I will have one more question to wrap us up. 11 years in the future, or let's say 12 years in the future, Where do you see yourself and what do you see, I guess, your legacy at DNA Solutions being?
I see myself kicking back at my desk with my feet up because everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing at any time during the day. And we all have work-life balance and we're all happy because it's all captured in a policy or a procedure.
Yes.
And then at the end of that 12 years, I hope to hand over a beautiful policy manual and a recipe for how to run the place to the next person and say, okay, call me if you have any questions.
Nice.
Yes. Always train your replacement, I always say.
Yeah. Well, thank you for talking with me and speaking to me about DNA Solutions and your career path.
Yes.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of Ishi.
Thank you so much. It really is my pleasure.